being with nature and admiring it for what it is rather than taking it as an adversary is always the best policy. Always. Just look at it for what it is, another life species that's trying to survive just like you.
Welcome to Wild Development Studio. Join us as we venture into the breathtaking realm of wildlife arts and untamed adventures. With captivating stories from the field and ideas to dive into the visual arts, we'll ignite your passion for conservation. Get ready to develop something wild.
Welcome to Wild Developments. I am your host, Lauren, and today we're talking to Dr. Sherie Gache. She is an adjunct college professor, speaker, and consultant. She has 3 graduate degrees and a special awarded interdisciplinary PhD in communication and history. Her research focuses on exploring new ways to think about freedom. Her career path has included 9 careers. This expansive professional and life experience gives her a unique perspective on freedom and rights. Dr. Gache has helped in many global issues through nonprofit organizations by means of educational service learning. She has lived in the United States and Europe in both the city and country. She currently lives with her family in rural Florida by St. Johns River. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
My name is Dr. Sherie Gache, and I am the author of the Bill of Rights 2.0. And I believe that personal sovereignty is very important, and it's a superpower for humanity.
How did you get to writing the book? What led you down that path? What's some of your background?
Well, I'm a writing professor. So as a writing professor, I started doing a blog with my students, and doing that created a certain tide, and it happened over about 4 years, and we were writing right after right after right, and it just grew organically. And a lot of my students were second generation or first generation Americans in Miami, because I was teaching in Miami. And so they had definite, very close experiences with oppression. So that's how that happened. And so connected to nature, nature is there's a lot of sovereignty found in nature, and personal freedom goes all the way back to the Magna Carta of 1215. So you can see that the essence of freedom has come down to us from through the centuries. And one of the nice things about that is you can see in America, you can see freedom and natural freedom throughout the state parks and the national parks and even the public lands.
So nature and being in nature, is that important for your own sovereignty?
Yes, I think that when you are in nature, you are actually acting as ownership of yourself. And nature has a different time dimension than we do as an evolutionary, let's say, realm, you could say. Nature and the trees and the oceans evolve at a much slower rate than humans do. Humans are going very fast. We're Speedy Gonzales compared to nature, and we're actually like artificial intelligence. Imagine, we're moving into so many new things right now. And when we walk outside into nature, or we go into nature in any way, it automatically has a relaxing, freeing effect, because we are automatically pushed into a slower realm, and that causes us to feel more peaceful because we are going so fast, and we don't notice. It's very subconscious, but it's there, and that allows us to become more intimate with ourselves, and that gets us closer to our sovereignty.
Can you give an example of how that works?
Yeah, so sure. So let's say I'm inside, and I'm in the digital realm. I'm online, right? Typical, right? Digital online realm, like we're doing right now. And at a certain point, I go, okay, well, I want to detach, and I consciously make a decision to detach from the online digital realm. And so I have a digital detox moment where I decide to go outside. And in order to do that, often we have to prepare because of the seasons, right? We might have to put a coat on, we might have to put a pair of shoes on or something, but we prepare. Then we make the next decision to walk outside. And the first thing we notice when we walk outside is generally the air. We notice the air and the light. Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? We notice the air on our skin. Is it cold? Is it the same to hotter? What is it in relationship to our body? And then we go through another thing. We start feeling the wind, and we feel the breeze, and we feel how strong is the wind, or not strong at all. And and we've already gone through, like, maybe the sunlight through the trees and so forth. But at this point, then we make a decision to move. How are we going to move? And I usually ask myself, am I going to go this way, or am I going to go that way across my yard? And I'm going to be looking for an encounter with nature in some way. And that's the personal sovereignty point, is where I'm making all these decisions. And so I'm owning my personal sovereignty by making all these decisions. And then as I go across my yard or wherever I decide to walk, I'm actually looking for an encounter with nature in some way. I want to have a connection. I want to really feel an experience. I'm looking for a disruption in what is normal. So if the grass and the trees are normally, just the way they always are, but maybe there's something else that I might see or encounter that's very different that day. And it's in that moment, that very single moment, that I feel. And it's in that single moment that we create a story and a memory. And that's where we actually remember nature. We have a connection. And because that memory becomes something that will never be done again. It is gone forever. It is a single moment in time, and we can't repeat it. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm walking across. And it might be, for how does that play out? So maybe it plays out like, as I'm walking, which way am I going to go? What am I going to encounter? What do I do if I see a flower, an unusual flower? Am I going to pick it? Am I going to leave it? I'm making decisions. What happens when I see a spiky caterpillar that I know might, sting me? Am I going to move it, touch it? Am I going to, what does the encounter have? What am I going to do? Am I going to watch it for a minute? I'm going to watch it for 15 minutes and see where it goes. What happens when I encounter, like I did a couple of weeks ago, a big 8-inch mushroom? It's huge. It was bigger than my hand. And it was, I've never seen a mushroom that large. Now, if I kick it, because I don't want to touch it with my hands and get, spores all over my hands, if I kick it, I'm going to uproot it, because my foot is definitely stronger than its roots, which is a very short root system. And then I'm going to really disrupt its life. So what is my connection as I'm moving through nature? How am I encountering these beings around me? And what is my relationship to that? This is opposed to, for example, a person that might go to the beach, put a towel down on the beach and see nothing, or a captain on a boat who might be out on an ocean looking to pull in the biggest fish that he can possibly bring in. And, it's not so much, what can I get from nature? What can I take from nature? What can I take from the ocean, the beach, the forest? What can I take from it? Whether I'm going to take logs, if I'm logging, and I'm going to take that from a forest. It's not what I'm getting from nature, but what kind of connection can I create with nature? And that's where the personal sovereignty comes in. It's all those decisions that I'm moving through it, and I'm accountable for those decisions. And that accountability really creates a muscle of your personal sovereignty. It kind of, it's almost like a gym for your personal sovereignty. It gets you to you're making decisions, and how you're going to move, and how you're going to relate to the world around you. And it's a blessing. I feel really blessed that I can go out and do that. Yeah. So not everybody lives with nature around them, and I'm really happy about that.
I really love that when you said digital detox, and it sounded like you are very intentional when you go outside and you think about all the ways that you can possibly affect that animal or creature's life, or plant or fungus, how can we work on that muscle memory, like you were talking about, and in being more connected with nature?
Right. So basically, it's about making decisions, and it's about moving and being very conscious and being aware. You have a certain honed awareness, and it's practice. You have to do it over and over again. And I have a speech talk that I'm working on. It's called Roller Coaster to Sovereignty, Adventures in Kaleidoscope Thinking. And the kaleidoscope thinking is exactly what you're doing in nature. You're observing so many things at once that your mind starts shifting back and forth. And to be honest, the digital world really actually gets you ready for that. Because especially people scrolling on social media, you're absolutely shifting all the time through different timelines of different people. And so when you get into nature, you can shift through different things that you're seeing really fast, a lot faster than maybe humans 100 years ago. So now you're shifting so fast through so many, you should easily be able to pull up the disruptions that you normally might not see. Maybe a human 100 years ago couldn't see those disruptions in nature, but we should be able to, because that digital world has really gotten us to kaleidoscope think. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely are. Like right now, I've got so many browsers up on my screen, and oftentimes I'm multi-screening it and, looking at Facebook here and watching something over there, maybe working on something else. But I think we really have to disconnect from that digital space in order to pick up on the natural stuff around us. And you're right, we are trained, we can take it all in, but now we have to be in a 3D space and look up and down and all around us.
It's that digital detox moment where you move from a realm where it's just you and a screen to outside a space that's a 3-dimensional space where you're using all your senses in real time, and you're moving. It's a 3D geographical space because you're moving across the land.
How did you come to feel so passionately connected to nature?
Okay, so I actually grew up in Miami, which is full of the ocean and tropical, it's got a lot of nature in that city. But I didn't really come into it so much then. And then as a young adult, I moved to Rome, Italy, and there's basically not too much nature there. You are absolutely surrounded in that city with monuments, and there are hundreds of years and centuries on each corner. And all your, centuries and centuries of human-made monuments and buildings everywhere you go. So you're encountering more a past than you are the present. When you're in nature, you're in the present. So I came from that city. I lived there for about 13 years. And then I moved back to Florida, had my son and my family. And then 5 years ago, right before COVID, I moved to rural North Florida. And it was a big change. So I had gone from, like, let's say if you were at the other extreme would be a city in Europe like Rome, Italy, where everything is a massive monument. You're walking through a museum every day, basically, and then to something that's virgin wildlife. Basically, I live on a river. There's a creek behind me, a natural virgin Florida creek, that's been untouched for thousands and thousands of years. And the contrast was huge. And I've really embraced it. I started noticing the water on the river every day, and how it moves and how rough it is and how calm it is. And then this relationship to the wind and the skies. And then I have big giant oaks that go up several stories high, and they're very heavy trees. They're almost very masculine in a sense. And I'm surrounded by those, and they have Spanish moss hanging, which are very feminine and sway in the wind. So there's sort of like dual feeling of masculine, feminine around me at that time. And then I have this also this feeling that, as I'm walking around, it's just the air is different, the skies are different. So I started noticing the difference in that sort of thing. Yeah. So I became much more aware of it.
What's been your favorite experience in nature?
Um, every time I go in nature, it's special because I'm always finding something. And nature is really good about like giving us gifts if we look for them. It's really amazing like that. But I have about a month ago, I was walking a beach in just south of Jupiter, Florida. And that day, the shoreline was different than it normally is. And it actually had this some of the water of the ocean washed up and it formed like a puddle, but an expansive, huge puddle of maybe a few inches high, just like very, very little, just like tiny bit. And in that water, shorebirds, some very small shorebirds were playing in it. And the special part about that was it was near sunset. So the sunlight was shining on that water and it was turning it silver. And it was almost like I had this like expansive, really low water. The beach looked silver because it was so shallow. And it was across the beach and it was quite amazing. It was an amazing sight. I had never seen anything like it. And it looked silver and it was glistening and it was just really a special moment. And the other special moments that I have is related to that beach is the sunsets. And because it's the East Coast, you don't get the sunset directly. You get a reflection of the sunset, what I call the reflective sunset, which is so amazing because it's pink and lilac and orange, like peach colored. And these colors are amazing. It's almost like I never realized that a reflective sunset can be more beautiful than an actual sunset where you see the setting sun on the west. That's the East Coast where you'll get that.
I like that. I'm going to use reflective sunset next
Yeah.
time I'm on the water.
Oh, it's amazing. And you don't see that normally every day. You have to be over a horizon where you can really see it like the ocean.
Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite spot to go in nature?
Well, I really love the state parks and, they're just amazing. The state parks have so much to offer. I like to hike at the trail. They always have trails. You can hike the trails. But I also like to kayak. We have so many springs across the state of Florida. Florida is full of springs, natural springs, and there's water throughout the state, which living in South Florida, I never even knew. It's funny how you don't even know your own state until you get out of the main city. So it's so important to actually do that and actually venture out. But I like to kayak down some of the boat-free, skinnier waterways where you're almost shrouded by the trees and the plants around you. And so there's no boats, and it's so beautiful. You're close to the turtles and the birds, and of course alligators because it's Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really a nice experience. Enjoy that a lot. Yeah, I know. I also sometimes like I was saying, I walk the beach a lot. Now, what I do when I walk the beach that makes it so special is that I walk with my feet in the water. Um, Even when it's colder out, you can walk in your feet. When you're walking, the blood in your feet actually warm you up, so your feet don't feel cold after a bit. And what happens is you start to feel the mood of the ocean. Because the ocean is sometimes very strong and other times it's very gentle. And that's it offers that same connection and that you get with the ocean. You're there with the ocean. You're not separate. It gives you a feeling like that. And it's also very powerful for your own emotions because it being water and changeable like that. It also has an effect on your mood. And it definitely has some sort of amazing therapeutic even um, you know, relationship to humans in that sense.
Making me miss Florida. I'm going to be there next week.
Yay. You should do all those things that I just told you.
I absolutely am.
I can recommend one great place. It's called Blowing Rock. It's in the middle of the state on the eastern coastline. Blowing Rock is preserved by the Nature Conservancy, the huge nonprofit. That's an amazing nonprofit. And they've put this aside, and it's a very special geographical or geological, actually, type of beach. put it that way. It's got lots of huge rocks, and yeah, it's really unique and it's really beautiful.
You said it's on the East Coast. I feel like I've seen that before. It's really rocky, and then the waves will kind of blow in and up through the rocks, right?
Yeah, and they create formations on the rock. Yeah, but it's an unusual type of rock that I believe it's not found anywhere else, and that's what it's called, blowing rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. I'll try and find some pictures and put it in the link it to the show description because it's almost like you're in another state and not in Florida. It's a really cool spot.
It really is. It is unusual.
So you mentioned that rights of earth is your favorite right in the Bill of Rights 2.0. What is that exactly?
Right. The rights of birth. Well, it is my favorite right. And the reason it's my favorite right is because I'm passionate about it. And, it's funny because there's 44 freedoms in the Bill of Rights 2.0, but everybody has their own favorite according to what they're most passionate about. And it's whatever you find in whatever freedom that you are passionate about. But the rights of birth are about actually us doing what's in best interest of the earth. And the earth's components and elements are the oceans, the skies, the forest, the core and the substrata, and so that's yeah, I can read you a bit in here. That's
Yeah.
the from Emergent Freedom, my book, and the Bill of Rights 2.0, and I'll just give you a little bit about what that is. It's rights of earth. It starts out, we the people declare the rights of earth, and whereby all the earth, including sky, land, forest, rivers, oceans, substrata, and core shall be protected, whereby earth's natural resources shall not be subjected to invasive chemical substances or genetic manipulation. Each earth shall be treated with respect for its finite natural resources, such that all actions affecting earth shall take into consideration the best interest of earth. And then it goes into different areas of that. But it's supported by, for instance, it's supported by the right to water, the right to food, the right to air, the right to shelter and habitat, and the right to biodiversity. So there's other rights that also support it. So it's all intertwined. It's really intertwined, all these freedoms. Yeah.
I just recently learned the other day that in Cincinnati, for a while, we were not allowed to grow fruits and vegetables in certain parts of the city in our yard. And I feel like that should be something that everybody has a right to, growing your own fruits and vegetables from your own yard so you know where it's coming from. What are some ways that we can start taking back our rights?
Cities have a lot of, I learned that living in rural areas, I learned that, you can have chickens here, but in some places you can't have roosters because they make noise.
Mm.
And cities won't allow you to have trailers in their, RVs in your yard. And you see everybody has an RV in their yard here where I live. So it's like those kind of things as you really don't have as much liberty as you should. And I'm surprised that they don't let you to grow certain kinds of vegetables, but they don't want people, I guess, to be, farmers in the city. They are making it difficult for you to do that. And you'd have to maybe make an indoor type of setting to take that back, like a greenhouse or something that wouldn't be, I guess, offensive to the city. I'm assuming they don't want people to then branch off from foods to having chickens. This is the first step. And then, pigs and whatever else, goats. Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a farm. That's a really great tip, though, bringing it inside, because there are some like indoor um, greenhouse gardens and stuff that you can.
Yeah, you can even do it on balconies. I've seen people do things on balconies and condos and stuff. Yeah, there's homesteading groups and they show you how you can do things on the littlest of spaces, the urban farming way. It's urban farming is called. But yeah, you'd have to get rid of some of those things that you've got. Some of those restrictions are very unpleasant. Yeah.
It's very interesting. So, is there anything that you want to share that we didn't already cover?
Well, I think that sovereignty is actually a superpower that's been untapped, and rights especially have this, like, after I wrote the Bill of Rights 2.0, I discovered its superpower because I changed, so I could see a shift in myself, discovering all these freedoms, and I started to look at everything from a new perspective, like I'm talking to you now, like from a different, sort of almost from a whole different viewpoint that we didn't grow up with, and it's all connected with what is good and true. And what is good and true aligns with nature. That's the point. So it's God-given freedoms, and that aligns with nature perfectly. So that's the relationship to nature. So, yeah, I do have a question for you. How do you feel about sovereignty in relationship to nature? Do you have any feelings about that, your own decision making when you're out there?
Wow, gosh. I, I do feel like I try to be more intentional in nature. Everybody should have the rights to these things and sharing
You know,
the
it's
space.
It's funny because, like, a lot of people don't realize what they don't have. I've said to people, you don't even have the right to air. And they're like, "What? I don't have the right to air?" Like, people's response to that is like, "No, I have that." No, you don't. You don't. You might have to pay for air one day, just like we pay for water. You might have to. This is like all possibilities that you can have taken away from you, which is why we need to move and set things up so that we have personal ownerships of
Yeah, I
what
was
we.
kind of stuck on that question because when you were talking earlier about when you were reading from your book, I kept thinking about we don't, we pay for water and water should be free. Like we're paying for the plastic bottle that it's coming in. Even when it's coming out of the tap, we got to pay for water like that. We have all the things on this planet that we need to survive and live, and yet we're taxing and charging for everything. And you're right. Like that's a scary thought that someday they could charge for air.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so when I say that, people are like, "What?" And I'm like, well, the 1789 Bill of Rights was not complete. It wasn't completed. And part of the reason is they had different things going on then. They didn't have a problem with food and water because most of the US founders were farmers. They had unlimited amount of, that kind of thing, water and food.
Fahrenheit in a low of 54 degrees.
I think your Alexa was on in the background.
Yeah, decided to suddenly tell me the temperature for no reason. And did I say something?
They're listening.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. When we talked the other day, you had a really fascinating buffalo story. Did you want to share that one?
Let's see. Yeah, I did go down a path in Payne's Prairie State Park and end up on a trail that ended because of high water. And to the right of me was a barbed wire fence that led into gator swamp, which was full of alligators that were mating, and you could hear their calls. And all of a sudden we turn around to go back on the trail because we couldn't go any further because of water. In front of us, there's water to the side of us, and on the other side is like a prairie of high grass, and we find the path blocked by a buffalo. And it was kind of like, okay, so what do we go? We can't walk towards it and confront it because you're not going to confront a buffalo and get it out of your way. And we had nowhere to go. And so we were trapped. And I actually called the ranger, and they said, "Oh, just like wait it out and it'll eventually move off because it'll be hungry." And that's what it did. It took about 20 minutes or so. And then it wandered back into the prairie grasses, and we got out of there. Yep.
I love that story. So, I mean, that's a huge animal and they can cause a lot of damage. And so how did you guys stay calm through that? Because I would imagine you'd have to be, otherwise you're gonna.
I wasn't really scared like I thought I should be. I was more in my sense of wonder, that sense of wonder that I'm outside with. And I think, like, that's the thing about sovereignty, because I'm experiencing this sovereignty of wonder. That's the state I was in, was just like, wow, like, look at this, which sounds almost like a stupid person. What, who's going to be like, but that's the state I was in. I didn't feel danger. And in fact, it wasn't dangerous because it did move off. But I suppose if we had charged it, it might have turned into something dangerous. But, just going with the flow, I think is the best. Just being with nature and admiring it for what it is rather than taking it as an adversary is
Mhm.
always best, is always the best policy. Always just look at it for what it is, another life species that's trying to survive just like you. And you're all on the same playing field, really, rather than an enemy energy is never good for anything, even between humans.
Mhm.
No, no, no. It's just like, okay, it's okay.
When I think that humans can definitely feel if you're giving off that energy. I imagine animals would definitely feel that
Yeah,
energy.
exactly, right? So, definitely, chill and just watch it and don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry to get somewhere or like, start pacing with, tension, right? Because you
Mhm.
can't go anywhere and you're like a trapped animal. No, just hang out and just go, whoa, and start taking pictures. Hopefully you'll be able to show somebody those pictures one day, right?
That's
That's,
right.
yeah, you go into like different camera mode.
That would have been me for sure.
That's it. We just go into camera mode and that's it. We're just documenting. Yeah. And
Hmm.
it becomes a memory then and a good story to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your future speaking presentation. I know you mentioned it before. Did you want to wrap it up a little bit and tell us again?
Yeah, it's called Roller Coaster to Sovereignty, Adventures in Kaleidoscope Thinking. And my plan is to really help people explore their own personal sovereignty and discover it. Just talking to you, you can see how different it is when you're in a sovereign state of mind. You can probably tell just from this discussion um, on your podcast about how that relates to the world differently. And I really think it's a superpower to have sovereignty. And the more people have just personal sovereignty, then it'll grow into national sovereignty. And it becomes it's just a whole. Like I said, it aligns with what everybody wants, which is freedom. So it
Mhm.
aligns with what we is good and true, and nature supports us in that in every way. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how can people find you to hire you for this speaking engagement?
Okay. Well, I'm at Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you can message or any of those. And you can most often find me on Twitter, and I often do spaces on Twitter called X now, X Twitter. Um, I'm often doing spaces, co-hosting spaces that have to do with freedom or the future, because we talk a lot about the future and what's going to be happening in the future too. So I think that's a really important topic.
And where can people find your book?
Yeah. So, oh, I forgot my handle on social media is at Dr. Sherie Gache. And my book is found at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and all those good spots. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll be linking those in the show notes so people can check out your book there. And before we go, what is one tip that you would have for someone that would like to get outside right now and connect with nature?
Go outside, get free. Just decide, make the decision, stand up, put on what you got to put on, open the door, go out and move. Do it.
Do it. Perfect advice. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And until next time, get outside and see what develops.
Thanks for joining Wild Development Studio. We hope this exploration into the world of wildlife arts and adventure has sparked a desire to get outside and connect with something wild. If you have an adventure that's awe-inspiring, don't hesitate to share. Click the link in the description to submit your story to have it featured on our show or be a guest. Until next time, keep connecting to the wild and see what develops. The views, opinions, and statements expressed by individuals during Wild Development Studio productions do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Wild Development Studio or its affiliates. Participation in any activities, expeditions, or adventures discussed or promoted during our content may involve inherent risks. It is strongly advised that individuals conduct thorough research, seek professional guidance, and take all necessary precautions before engaging in any such activities. Wild Development Studio, its representatives, or employees shall not be held responsible for any injury, loss, damage, accident, or unforeseen incident that may occur as a result of participating in activities inspired by or discussed in our content. By choosing to engage with our content or act upon any information provided, individuals do so at their own risk and discretion.